a woman should be entering a man's world, ultimately in the relationship, not him entering her world, right? It's like she should be becoming a part of his life, and that's what it is traditionally anyway, right? In terms of the father gives away the daughter, she becomes part of the man's life. Like she becomes his responsibility, instead of it's like. I think a lot of couples don't think of it that way, and a lot of guys don't think of it that way, because if I think of it of you entering my
Beyond
life.
the perfect we discovered, through our flaws we complete each other. Better than perfect we stay, through every fault we find our way.
Aloha. Welcome to the Better Than Perfect podcast, where each week we show you how two imperfect people helping each other grow equals one better than perfect relationship.
That's right. And this week, let's see.
Can you guess where we are?
Yeah.
By the intro?
It's our first anniversary, and we are in Kauai, Hawaii.
Kauai.
My first time on this island. Your first time on this island.
Yeah.
Although I went to high school in Hawaii. All 4 years of high school on Oahu.
That's right. And you tried to live on Maui.
Yeah, I tried to live on Maui for 2 months.
So he's very into the Hawaiian-ness, which I don't blame him, because we don't want to leave. I mean,
yeah,
it's gorgeous here. I'm sure we can put in some footage maybe of what we've seen in this video, but
it's a whole different feel. It's like a different vibe. Like, people sometimes compare Hawaii to like the Caribbean, and they're like, it's just but it's different, because Hawaii has a totally different culture, vibe, aloha spirit, I guess you could call it. It's like, it's not just like an island or just like a tropical destination. It's a way of life. Like,
I really like how they're very nature focused, especially on this island. It's very naturey, just in general, compared to the other ones. I mean, Maui is naturey too, but I like that they're very into the earth and the nature, and they appreciate all the things, the water, the reefs, the plants.
Exactly.
Their food,
And then there's like the food here is so different, because it's like you have like weird like Hawaiian.
We've been trying to find plate lunch,
junk food,
which is like Hawaiian food.
Yeah.
And it's been so hard.
It's like, it's weird. It's like, if you haven't had Hawaiian food, it's not like really Hawaiian authentic. It's more, Hawaii is like a mix of Portuguese, Japanese, Chinese,
American
Hawaiian food. And so it's like, plate lunch is like a scoop of mac salad, scoop of white rice, sticky rice, and then like either kalbi beef or katsu chicken or lomi
shrimp,
salmon, or fish or shrimp, or like kalua pork. It's like all these different things. Or spam. Spam is a big thing. Spam musubi, salmon. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that's just like Hawaiian.
Yeah, we've had a hard time finding like a lot of plate lunch. I think we've tried a few times. I think we've given up on that for here.
But we figured we'd talk about, and then also I guess the other thing that might be confusing is that it's our anniversary.
Yeah.
But
if you don't follow us on social media, you don't know the complicatedness.
Because we got married, we had our wedding.
Like our ceremony and everything in October.
Right.
But we got legally married
in November of the previous year.
I wasn't gonna confuse them that much.
But our anniversary is March 7th.
Yeah, we picked it
because we decided we want to pick our own date for our anniversary, so that's what we did. And
37 is our number.
Yeah.
So that's why we picked it.
March
we
7th.
wanted it to be a special day, which I feel like a lot of people do pick their anniversary date for like a special reason. So
and it was like, we got to actually celebrate our 0th anniversary, which most people don't get to do. So
I told John most people celebrate their 0th anniversary by having the wedding. Yeah. So, but last year we went to Palm Springs for like a long weekend and celebrated. But now we're in Kauai. And it's been beautiful. I mean, we haven't had as much sun as we would like, but it's still been really nice.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to come back.
Yeah, and we were staying at this super nice place.
It's gorgeous. I don't want to leave. I just want to live right here.
And we got it all for points. We did this point thing with credit card mile points. So we got this, it's like $2,300 a night. We got it for free.
It's gorgeous. It's literally so amazing with like these huge doors that open up so you can have like the outdoor, indoor living situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, you might see us on Kauai maybe permanently one of these days. Oh, we've liked it a lot. You said it's like your favorite island.
I think so. It's so laid back, just chill, and like just so much nature, like undisturbed. Like Maui has a lot of nature, but I feel like so much more of it's manufactured.
You think so?
Like the beaches and stuff they're not as many natural beaches. I think this is more natural.
The freaking mountains with the waterfalls here.
Yeah.
Like there was waterfalls in Maui when you're driving along the road, but there's like these huge mountains in the North Shore that we saw yesterday. I mean, it was like rainy most of the day, but you could see the waterfall like all the way down.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. It's nice. It's just too bad we have to leave.
I know, but visit.
Yeah.
Be respectful.
Yeah. So I guess this week is my week, right? I think so. And so, yeah, it is my week. So
it is
the episode. But I almost thought for a second maybe we should just talk about us as just our relationship and stuff and our history. But I don't know. We could talk some about that. We already did kind of with the anniversary. But I was thinking to talk about like, when should you live together, travel together, like all of these kind of the things about
milestone sort of things.
Yeah, and also just how to test a relationship in various ways of life. Because like even in our relationship, right, when we first met, I was traveling speaking at a conference. And so, I mean, our first date was kind of a normalish first date, but then our second date was playing mini golf at Universal Studios, and our third date was spending Universal Studios in Florida.
Yeah.
And then the next time we saw each other, we got the honeymoon suite in...
You got the honeymoon suite.
Yeah, I got the honeymoon suite in Cancun for 5 days,
Yeah.
And so it was...
resort.
So it was like...
It wasn't
not real life.
It didn't feel like reality. Yeah, that's why I was like, no, you have to come back and we have to just like go on normal dates. Yeah. We have to see if we actually like each other and we're not living in this like fantasy thing. But I feel like a lot of people don't do what we do.
Yeah.
Like they go on normal dates first. They don't like have some guy that comes into town and goes, because a lot of people don't live where like Disney is, or like huge theme
or they're
parks.
in the same city, so they could just date.
Right, like normal. So it's like, most people are doing it the normal way, but we did it the not normal way. But at least we knew that, it's like we need to see if we're living in a fantasy world or if we could actually deal with each other in everyday life.
Yeah.
So it was good that you came and like we just had a normal week.
Yeah.
Before it went even more crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I was thinking about that, because I think it is important to have the different contexts that you test a relationship in to see how people behave differently around their friends as well, right?
Yes.
And around their family.
Yeah.
When they're on vacation versus when they're stressed out at work and like the grind of the day. But what was interesting about our relationship too is that we sort of start our relationship
the opposite way?
living like a married couple almost, right? Because the first 3 dates, that was different. That was not, it was still
extravagant
unique because I didn't live in the city, and it was still, but then immediately after that, like, I guess it was, 4 months later, the next time we saw each other, we were living together we stayed together 24 hours.
Right.
For 4 or 5 days. I think it was
4 or 5.
4 or 5 days. So we hardly knew each other. And then we were in close proximity for 5 days straight.
Right. Like,
right.
Cohabitating.
And then even after that, when I came to visit in Tampa,
you stayed in my apartment.
I stayed, yeah. So we lived together.
That's true.
And then as soon as I moved to Tampa, we immediately lived together too. So, but I think the only reason why we were able to immediately jump to moving in together right away when I moved to Tampa was because we had already spent 4 or 5 days together in Mexico, and then we spent almost a week together at your place in a normal life, more normal life situation.
Right.
And so, we had seen the different side. There wasn't going to be any major surprise. We got along. We were able to,
It's funny because I tell John that he manifested us getting married because he got the honeymoon suite. Then when I got there, everyone was calling me Miss Mez. And I'm like, no. And they're like, what? And they're probably like, why are you guys in the honeymoon suite then? Yeah. But yeah, he manifested us being here.
All my friends were like, why would you get the honeymoon? So what are you doing? Like if you take this girl to Mexico, you're going to get laid. Like, you don't need to get a honeymoon suite. And I was like, I want the honeymoon. I want, like, this. It just felt special to me from the very beginning. Like, that's why. And it was like, and I wanted to, like, have this, like, this is the life that I wanted to have. And now I do have it. But I want to
I want to say, too, that John was respectful.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he's sitting here talking in his dude language of, like, you're going to get laid, bro. Like, he was respectful.
Well, because that's the way I was living at the time, right? I mean, I was living a very different life, you know what I mean? So, like, that's how I thought back then. Like, that was...
Yeah, but you didn't in that instance. No, you got the honeymoon suite.
Yeah. No, it was different because it was, like, it was literally special. Like, I was just... I mean, because even in Orlando... When we first had met, I sent you that video that...
We need to add that in.
Yeah, visual. Where I was like, I just am happy to know someone like you exists. And it was true because in my mind, it was like, even though I was living that kind of lifestyle, I wanted what we have. Yeah. And I didn't think it was possible for me.
Like, just knowing that a person like you exists in the world, I think, to some degree, like... it makes me happy inside, like just knowing you're out there.
Obviously, there's complicated situations. We won't get into the depth. I mean, we did the episode on the cheating thing, but before. But yeah, I mean, I was in a relationship, and there was a lot of complexity to that. But
and situationships.
Yeah, and situationships.
All sorts of things.
It was a mess. It was like that's why I didn't think that was possible for us to have what we have, for me to have any kind of.
And this is why you don't get yourself in such a mess, guys, because if you end up doing that, what if you meet the love of your life and then you're in a situation? I mean, it might work out like you and I, but
it is.
Don't be deceptive and get yourself in situations.
Yeah, a lot of things had to go, but I do think that it's important that, I mean, a lot of people, I think they date for a long time. Mm-hmm. And they're living separate lives, which, I mean, yeah, you're living in different places. You're going to, but even then, their lives are too separate in the sense that they don't know where each other is. This always amazes me, right? When I'm talking to guys and like girl cheats on them or whatever, he suspects something in them. Like, how do you not know where each other are at 24 hours a day? How do you not have your locations on? Or even if you don't have your locations on, how you're not telling each other? Like, if I'm dating someone, I know where they're at. If it's like, I know where they're at. If I don't know where they're at, that's a problem. But people are kind of living that separate. But then they get together, maybe they first move in or whatever, and they haven't really tested the waters. They haven't gone on a major trip where they spend 24 hours together for several days. And then it breaks down. I mean, you see it every time on Love is Blind, right? As soon as they get together, especially, usually when they're in the vacation, it's usually like, if it's not going good there, that's a real problem. But as soon as they get back to the real world, that's when the shit falls apart, right? It's like, because then it's like, oh, you know, when they're living their regular life.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. When they're on their honeymoon, they're like, oh, we like each other. And then they get back and it's crazy. But I mean, yeah, I agree with all that. I think, you know, I've always been somebody that is very like live with a person before you get married, before you get engaged. Like, it's very important. I mean, I understand the religious aspect is what a lot of people who don't do it, that's normally the reason. But, and you know, if you're going to do what you're going to do religiously, I'm not going to tell you how to live. But if that's not a like situation for you, live with somebody before you get engaged and married. And it's because it's like, you don't know. You don't know what it's going to be like having somebody in your space all the time. And like, I lived with a boyfriend a long time ago in college. And like, it was fine, but it wasn't as like natural as it was with you and I. And I don't know if that's because we did it so quickly. I think it's because of our connection. But like, it just, it is different. Like, you have to see if you can like cohabitate with this person in a way that's not going to like, you're going to have resentment. Because I think that's what I had in the beginning. Like, I wasn't as connected to that person or whatever it was, but I was like building resentment because of like, oh, he wouldn't like do this. And so I'd build resentment, you know, but with you, that's never the case. And it never was the case. Exactly. Yeah. Like, I never minded having you in my space. Like, when you first moved into like with me and then we got our own space and then we got our own space and, you know, it just felt normal. I do think too that like, ideally, especially for like long term, I think people should move in somewhere together.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's a little bit difficult no matter what. If it's like, let's say you had a house.
Yeah.
And you lived there by yourself or whatever. And then I moved into your house.
Yeah.
It's like yours. And like, you decorated it and like, yeah, we could change the stuff, but I think it's better to kind of like have a fresh start. So that's why too, when we got like our apartment, it was like a good like fresh start for us. Not that I like minded that you were in my apartment.
No.
But I'm just saying that I think like if you can do it, to like when you decide to move in, get a place together. Don't like move into each other's places.
I agree.
Or at least like move into someone's place until you guys both like do it, but like not long term be like, oh, like move into my house, you know? And I know with the economy and stuff, it's hard to just like up and get a new house. But I think it's just like a better foundation for a relationship is like not having like one person, like you're moving into one person's house.
Yeah, I agree.
Because even if somebody's like not that type of person that's like, this is my house, you know, it still like can feel like that to the other person, no matter what.
And I think on the religious side of things, because, you know, it's funny because almost everything that we talk about in this podcast, like religious people will agree with, but maybe not this one. But if you're honest, right, like most religious people, like the reason why you don't live together before you're married is because you don't have
before marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're already doing that. So then you might as well at least test the waters. I
agree with that. If you're already doing that, if you're not upholding that part,
then fine.
Then, if you're upholding that part, then no, it doesn't make sense. But if you, like you said, if you're not upholding the sex before marriage, then why not move in?
I guess because your parents and everyone will frown on you and whatever. But it's your life. You need to figure this stuff out because it'll be a different dynamic when you're. For a lot of people, it ends up being. For us, it wasn't a different dynamic, but
no, it felt very natural. But no, it is a different dynamic for a lot of people, and like I said, I feel like you either start building more resentment.
Yeah.
And it divides your relationship even more.
Yeah.
Or it brings you together closer, like makes you stronger, which I feel like that's what it did for you and I. And like,
because it's a test of like, we did the episode on becoming one. And it's like, if you move in together and you try to live separate lives, you're going to have conflict because he's going out.
Jimmy.
You know what I mean? hanging out with his friends, whatever.
Girlfriend.
She's doing this thing that she usually does. She goes out dancing. She does, right? And it's like,
well, it's because you live a different life when you're on your own. No matter what, no matter who you are. Like, it's like, okay, when I lived on my own, like, I would come home, make dinner, maybe watch some Netflix or something, and then, like, take my time to get ready for bed and whatever. And now, like, that we're together, it's like, we cook together, we eat dinner together. It's more of, like, an experience than it was when I just lived by myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, or we'll play a game or do something rather than just watch TV. Sometimes we watch stuff like Love is Blind, but, you know, and then we have, like, times where you read a chapter of a book before we go to bed. So it's like, you know, you create different habits and routines when someone else is in your space. You also have someone else to consider, someone else to, like, keep in mind. And, like, your hobbies and things that you do change when you go from being single to in a relationship. Like, when you're single, if your friends call you up on a Friday night, you might be like, sure, you know, throw on some clothes and go.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you come home at 2 a.m. or whatever.
Right.
But if you're in a relationship, you're not just going to do that. You know, like, it's just a different.
And it doesn't mean that you don't
vibe.
have anything that you, like, hobbies that you do yourself or hang out with your friends, but it's like, it's part of the one life that it's like, you know, as opposed to I'm going to do my thing and you're going to do your thing and then we're going to meet up when we're ready.
When you're single, you're totally focused on yourself.
Yeah.
That's all that you have. Like, and that's all, you don't have a, like, responsibility to anybody else. Yeah. But when you get into a relationship, it's like, like you said, you're not doing things that you want to do, but now you have to be like, oh, hey, like, I, you know, am planning to go have lunch with my friend at like 12. And then, cause it's like, what if you have a doctor's appointment? I mean, like, we share one car cause it works for us. And so that's also another reason to keep that in mind. But it's like, you still go do the things that you want, but you have to keep your partner in mind. And it's not like, it shouldn't be a thing that, like, bothers you to do, I guess, because some people act like it's such a bother to, like, be considerate of their partner, which is also weird to me.
Or they think of it as, they're like, I heard people use the phrase, I need to tell everywhere I'm going, or
or like what I need to, like,
for everything that I do, and it's like, no, you're thinking of it the completely wrong way. If that even crosses your mind, you're not getting it. Like, that's not how it is. It's not. It's just you need to be thinking of it as living one life, and so
it goes
it's
back
like
to the oneness. You know, like, you are one. Even when you move in, it's like you're one. You're living under one roof, like, you should already be operating from the place of oneness, I feel like, because, like, plenty of people asked me after our wedding and stuff, they're like, oh, how's, like, married life? And I'm like, it's the exact same, but in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's dangerous when people treat marriage like some huge transformation in their life, because it's like, you should have already been operating relationship-wise from that place. Now you're just legally adding a title, but you should have been operating this way.
That's what it's so bizarre when people are like, oh, not to get off on the bachelor party again, but when they're like, my last night being single. I'm like, no, that wasn't.
You haven't been
that
single.
Was before you
that
got.
Was before you said, yes, I'll be your girlfriend. I agree.
That's like, if you're thinking that, like, you're in trouble, because you're thinking the wrong way. Like, now things are going to change because now you're married. No, it's not.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, going on a trip with your friends sounds like a great time, you know, like, for what it is, like a vacation with your friends. But I feel like, personally, when I see people, like, go all out, like, super all out for all of this wedding stuff, like, with the bachelorette, with, like, the bridal showers, with all this stuff, spending all this money, I'm just like, it just doesn't feel genuine. You know what I mean? Like, we spent a pretty penny on our wedding. Don't get me wrong, but it was, if you went to our wedding, it was very intimate, very, like, just everybody having a really good time. And so the money felt like it was spent for more meaningful, rather than, like, we spent thousands of dollars on flowers that are going to die. You know what I mean? Like, tens of thousands of dollars that some people do. Or, like, you know, go like spend thousands of dollars on a bachelorette trip with like between where you're actually going, airplane tickets, all the gifts you're supposed to get, all the people.
Oh yeah.
Like it just turns into this like super expensive like production.
Yeah.
I guess. Like I said, don't get me wrong. Like, because we thought about doing a combined like bachelor party with like other couples.
Yeah.
Which I think that's fine because it's like a vacation for your other couple friends.
Yeah.
It's like, so that I'm not saying that like we're totally against vacations with your friends or whatever, but it has to be within the context of like where you are. And like you said, you're not single. Like you shouldn't just go out with a bunch of your girlfriends like you would if you were single. Like, get your couple friends together. But
speaking of the travel too, I think that's a good test of the relationship itself. It's like the first time you travel, because especially
the poop test.
What'd you say?
The poop test.
The poop.
Like you're gonna have to poop in front of them.
Yeah.
That's always awkward. Is the first time pooping.
Yeah. Unless it's always like, I mean, you can wait until you go to the restaurant, and then you can be like, oh, I gotta hit the restroom real quick.
Which that's definitely what people do. People like, definitely
like
try
everything
they can. Like, they try.
But why do hotel rooms? Every hotel room mandatory should have a loud fan. And sometimes a lot of hotel rooms, especially nice hotel rooms, it's like a glass enclosure for the toilet.
Yeah, it's like clear. You're like, you get to watch too.
Why would this even?
You know what's happening.
Or it's like the
now you get to watch
shut all the way. It's like a
you can hear. It's not like a soundproofing sort of spot.
But I was thinking more in terms of like the.
No, I know.
The logistics things are stressful, right? You're trying to get to the flight.
How the person
you got to like
reacts.
Get your stuff packed. You know, there's like you got to check in, or the rental car where you're going to get this, and you know, and it's
things are going to go wrong.
Yeah, and then you
can see. Yeah, you can see almost like, you know, how people are kind of like, oh, let's like we always refer to Love Is Blind because we like watching Love Is Blind and like dissecting it. But like when the couples were like, you know, I think it was Amy and Johnny were like, we need to get into like a fight to see what we're going to be like.
First big fight.
It's kind of like that. You want to get into a situation where it's a little stressful and like things are happening to see how that person's going to react, man or woman.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because like a lot of times women can freak out and stuff too, and a lot of times men can freak out. So it's like, how is this? But especially as a woman, it's like, how is he going to handle this? Like if you're letting the man lead, when things get rough, you want to see how he's going to handle it. Yeah. Right? It also helps build your trust in him as a leader to see that. Like, I'm not saying that, like, if we're in a stressful situation, I'm just going to be like, go ahead, John, to figure it all out. Like, I'm obviously going to help you.
But the man should be on top of it, figuring out. You're right. Like, if he starts reacting and starts snapping and it's like, whatever, or he just delegates, like, abdicates and it's like, you figure it out, or, you know, instead of taking charge of the situation and getting it taken care of, then you're getting a lot of information about how he's going to handle life.
Right. And we're saying this from a place of both of us have traveled with previous partners that have made it horrible. Yeah. And John and I have traveled many places now together, and we've dealt with our own, you know, wrenches and plans, and it's never been like that. Yeah. So it's a really good, like, test. I'm not saying, like, go to a different country or fly somewhere to test your relationship, but, like, definitely if you're kind of, like, in a position where you're, like, I'm having, like, some, I don't want to say, like, second thoughts, but if you're kind of like, I don't know about this person being the one for me. Yeah. You could even do, like, a weekend trip somewhere, because even with the weekend trips you're gonna run into something. I mean, it's a little bit less if you're not like flying or something, but if I think even a weekend trip could get you a good sort of vibe.
It's good to have a good 4 to 5 days together though, because
that's again, most people longer than like,
even if they're living together, most people are working, right? So they're not spending 4 to 5 days together,
like totally together.
You spend 4 to 5 days together and play some Overcooked and see where you're at.
No, but if you really want to test your relationship, play Overcooked, which Like, we're saying this as people who don't fight during Overcooked and get the 4 stars, but sometimes even we will be like, why didn't you chop the tomatoes? But it's nice. Like, it's not.
But yeah,
as
spending
crazy.
that amount of time together, like, constantly.
Right.
You've got, like, it's weird because I know that most people, when they hear that, they're like, oh, yeah. But it's like, for us, it's honestly, there's no, like, we can't get enough. It's
Right.
There's neither of us
We're
gets
like,
annoyed or
"Can
like,
we
I just need my
spend-"
space. I can't wait to get back and just have them. I never feel like that. I know you say that you never feel like that either. So
No. I know. I'm like, we could stay for however long
yeah. Oh,
we wanted.
but trips for guys, right? It's like you book everything, take care of,
Good luck with
plan out
that.
the dates, plan out the hotel, all the rental, all the stuff. That's the man's job. Now, and the reason why I say that specifically is most guys delegate that to
A woman.
right. They're like, you pick the place, and it's like you're.
But don't hold it over her head, because I've also had somebody plan things and be like, I planned everything and you didn't do anything. And it's like,
that's not the point.
you could have asked me.
Yeah, that's not the point. You just do that because you're the man and you take care of the things so she doesn't have to worry about these things and you make it nice.
Well, it also, again, is
Plan
another
the trip.
thing that shows her that you're taking the lead
Just like a
and
guy
you're
plans a
the
date.
authority.
Right, it's
And
a long
yeah.
That's what it is. So, yeah. So that's important to do that stuff. Take care of everything. Make sure it's all taken care of.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard one, I think, for guys.
Yeah. But it's important. That's
But
how
you have to care enough. I think that's the thing, is that guys, like, they're planning trips and they don't really care enough. Or maybe they don't even really want to go. Maybe maybe their wife or their partner or whoever makes trips unbearable, and so they're not planning. I get it if that's the case, but then you have to sit there and be like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And you need to do this before you get married.
Yeah.
Right? Or if it was fine and you got married and now you're in this place of you're like, I can't stand going anywhere with her, then you need to work on your marriage. You need to figure out what you guys need to work on.
And see, that was a good indicator when I was with you, when we traveled on our first trips, was stressful situations did come up. And I was like amazed that you're just being cool about it, that there was like, it was like, even if we're like coming close to being late for a flight or whatever it was, like we were just working together. No one was getting all snippy and like you were just so calm. And I was like, okay, this is not what I'm used to.
Well, what are you going to do? Like, what is yelling and freaking out going to do?
Yeah.
Nothing. Ever. What is yelling and freaking out ever going to do? I mean, it's one thing if you're like on the edge of a cliff and you're about to fall off, then you could freak out.
Yeah.
It still probably isn't going to help you, but that's my thing too. And then, for me, a lot of the things that I was like, wow, was if like maybe I wasn't feeling good, because like sometimes I get sick feeling when I travel, or, I'm really tired because of, when we went to Mexico, I was up at 3 a.m. and I was so tired, and you weren't like, what? Like, I paid for this trip. We just got here and you want to sleep? Like, plenty of guys would act like that. But I was like, you understood, though, that I got up and you appreciated what I went through to get to where we were.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't do that. Or they'll be like, well, I bought all this so we could like have a good time, and in their head, and get laid.
Yeah.
And that's all they care about. They don't care about the actual person that's there, but you always cared. And like, if we went somewhere and I'm like, my stomach hurts, you're not going to be like, well, we still need to go.
Or I'll drop you off at the hotel and I'll go out.
Right.
Like that, and people do that. That's the other thing, is they go on trips together and then they do separate things.
Right.
Like, well, I'm going to stay out at the bar. You're tired, go to bed or whatever. No.
Yeah.
That's not that, and that that you find that stuff out too.
That's true.
That's why. But yeah. The other thing I was going to say too is like, so we talk about the trips, is friends. Like how you got to find out how your partner acts in front of their friends
Because some people act
and
different.
family. But but family, I guess too, because sometimes people will revert to a different version of themselves when they're around family, or
it can be triggering, so I get it, but
especially I think women need to see how a man treats his mother. Mm-hmm. I think, right, just
in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if he doesn't treat her very well, red flag.
Right.
But obviously, if he's, like, too attached, red flag.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell if he, like, cares and, like, takes care of her without it being, like, overstepping your relationship, sort of.
And I think a guy should also see a woman's relationship with her father. I think that's important, too. It's like, because it doesn't, I mean, if it's a bad relationship, then there can be some problems off of that. If she has I think for a man, like when he sees a woman interacting with her family, with her father especially, if she looks up to her father, if she respects him, if she feels like he's a man, like, and if she treats him with that kind of authority or respect, that's a good sign, because that means that she probably respects a man. I mean, she's going to have a high standard for a guy, which is good, but it means that she probably respects him. But if she's totally disrespectful to her father, then you can expect that she's going to probably be totally disrespectful to you.
Right, because she's probably never ever respected a man in her life. So which, you also can't pick who you grow up with. So I'm not saying that there's women out there who have a dad they don't respect, and they could still respect men, if they've interacted with good men. So it's not a for sure thing. Obviously, like, people need to use the knowledge that they have. But I agree with you that, like, I don't think I'd maybe break up with somebody, but it's a good indicator to, like, kind of see what could happen potentially.
Because you're getting like, when people are comfortable around, and they're usually comfortable around their friends and their family.
Right.
And that's the thing, is you want to see how this person reacts in situations where they're because they're on their best behavior, especially if it's a new relationship, right? Because they don't want to mess things up, or they might be infatuated with you to the point where they're acting differently because they're afraid of losing you, as opposed to what's going to happen when that goes, because that usually goes away.
Right.
To the point
you get more comfortable, and then now they're comfortable with you.
Right.
But now you're so far in that it's harder to leave for a lot of people.
Exactly.
Because they've spent so much time, they invested so much time, but now the person's changed, and you just really never saw them. So that's a good indicator.
And in front of the friends too, I think, is a big one too, because it's like
it's kind of like with kids, like how they act at home versus when they act when they're with their friends.
When they're showing off in front of their friends.
Right.
Like, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, you get to see, because a lot of times people will, they might even be mean to their partner to, like, show how cool they are, like showing off in front. And that's like, they're right there. You get to see what choice they're making. Like, who are they really valuing
the most about?
More? Are they trying to look good in front of their friends?
Right.
Or they care about their partner? Or do they stop being affectionate in front of their friends too? Right. Yeah. It's like, I don't want my friends to see that
Well, I struggle with affection too. And it's not that sometimes, which I'm not, like, totally not affectionate towards you. I think mine too is just, I hate people feeling like a third wheel or something. Like awkward around two people doing PDA, because we can be very affectionate. So I'm always like, what's an appropriate amount? And, like, sometimes I feel like I hold back too much because I know how much I could be affectionate towards you. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to, like, scare people with, like, how affectionate we are, but you're always like, it's fine. Yeah. And it's just like, it's something that I'm learning. I think it's fine to balance.
It's fine to be as affectionate as you want, even if other people are around, to your partner. You just have to be careful with the sexuality line. Right. That's where it's not, because no one's really going to be super uncomfortable if you're hanging on your partner, if you're kissing.
Some people are, because they don't even maybe feel that with the person that they're with, or like they're, like, bitter because they haven't found somebody.
But that's not something you should cater to.
I know, but it's I just think about all the people, but
but it's also not good for them, because they're not seeing the example that they should be looking for. Yeah, so it's better for people. It's like even the same thing, like we've had talks about, like, with my daughter and stuff, and it's like, yeah, we want to be as affectionate as
Right.
possible around, so that she sees, because it's very easy to make the argument and say, oh, well, don't want to make her feel bad or whatever, and it's like, but
Yeah.
no, you want her to see this is how people who are married, who are in love, how they treat each other, and they, because it's
Yeah,
funny, because
you're
even
right.
she was like, I don't know. Remember, she had that conversation with us. She's like, I don't know if I don't want to get married. I don't want to. You guys are just boring. You just
Yeah, it's like you guys just like eat and go to bed, and we're like, no, we go on dates when you're not here because we want to spend time with you when you're here. Like, hello, And she's like, oh, and we're like, yeah, like it's a little different because we have our 50-50, but it's we spend the week with her,
yeah,
because we know we'll have a week to go on dates or do whatever we want to do, but and she sees us play Overcooked.
Yeah.
But I don't think she likes Overcooked, but
But have you
Yeah.
ever had situations where people are different in front of their friends?
I mean, I'm sure I have, but it's hard because it's like you're not in that relationship, so you don't see them like go back, but then you see the couple. I don't know, because sometimes too, maybe people act more affectionate in front of their friends to look like they're happier,
That
and then
can
at
also be,
home they don't.
They can put on the friendly.
So it's it's hard to like tell for sure if people are doing that, but I know what you mean, because I think that's why I mentioned the like kid thing. How kids act different in front of their friends. Like at home, they like do what they're supposed to, but then when their friends are here, they're like, "Do you want to paint on the wall?" And you're like, "What?" Like, no.
Yeah,
But
I mean the drinking too can be a thing too in front of the friends too, right? It's like
yeah,
you
well, that's
go out with
drinking
someone.
in general.
Yeah.
If you're out with friends and stuff, they're gonna enable you.
Yeah,
Like.
yeah, so
That's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like when I was single and I would go out with my friends, they would always try to get me to drink more, and I'm like, no. Like I never had a problem being like, no.
Yeah.
But they'd still try, and so it's like even if you're a couple too, and you're going out with other couples and you're drinking, your friends are gonna enable you.
Yeah.
And like try to be like, oh, go do this, or like whatever. But and then too, that can make you like more affectionate than normal because you're inebriated, and like that might not be for the right reason, or I don't know, it's just all that kind of stuff kind of murkies the water of the relationship. But it is important to put yourself in these situations, the traveling, the seeing how people are around friends and family, living with each other, because that, like, I feel like you have to do those things in order to like really get a good grip on, can I marry this person?
Right.
And if you don't want to get married, then I guess, do whatever you want to do. But even if you're just planning to stay in a long-term relationship, you still need to do those things before, like, to figure out if it is going to be a long-term relationship. So really everybody should be doing it, unless you're in a situationship or you just started dating. Like, I'm not telling people to go to Mexico on the 4th date like we did. Yeah. But like, it is important because we've both been in situations where, we've been on trips. And I mean, luckily I was in one where immediately after the trip, during the trip, actually, I wanted to break up. But we had like 5 days. So I was like, and it was a 10-day trip. So I was like, I can't do this, obviously, here and now. Like, I need to wait. But immediately after, I broke up with them. Like, it is a big deal. Like, it's...
Yeah, you find out a lot of information.
You do.
Yeah.
Like, you see how people really treat you. And like I said, like, in the stress, especially in stressful situations, because there's always going to be some stressful situation.
Yeah.
And you need to see how the person's going to react.
Yeah.
And it's like, because you could be, calm, cool, and collected, and you're with somebody that blows the heck up. Yeah. And I don't think people realize how much that like drains you, even if you're trying to be the rock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, even if you're trying to be calm, cool, and collected, even if you're trying to figure things out, somebody like totally going off the rail or freaking out, just, it can ruin your whole trip.
Yeah.
And, just let them be with someone else that also freaks out, and then they can freak out, and you find somebody that is, on the same page as you and makes even a stressful situation enjoyable. Because that's what I feel like me and you have. It's like, even if for some reason they're like, oh, like one time we got stuck in Charlotte with Toto and like, we didn't do anything crazy, but it wasn't like we weren't mad at each other the whole time sitting in the hotel room.
Situation,
Yeah, exactly.
But part of it also too is that like, as a man, I handle situations when they need to be dealt with.
Right.
I think if I wasn't like that, you'd probably get annoyed.
Well, yeah. Right. I think too, as a woman, personally, like I've said in other things, like when you're on your own as a woman, you have to figure things out. Right. And so if you're in a relationship and the man, instead of like, okay, let's figure this out, is like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like, I can't deal with this. It's almost like gives you the ick because you're like, well, what are you going to do? Like, how did you survive life until this point? Yeah. Like, you just freaked out?
Right.
It's like, that's not going to get us anywhere. Yeah. Like, so I think it's just, like you said, it does show what the dynamic's going to be. Because if he's freaking out over this, what if, like, his car breaks down on the side of the road, and instead of like just sucking it up and calling AAA or a tow truck, he calls you and he's like, I broke down, like like I'm just gonna sit here for a while because I don't know what to do, or you know what I mean, like it's just
no. And part of the whole thing too, I think, just even with the travel and like I was talking about booking everything, is like, then it's like, okay, well, if we're booking a trip, I'm taking care of that. Like, that's a microcosm for it, right?
You're encompassing everybody in that because it's under your responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, and even with the spaces and getting together, and, I think a lot of the conflict and issues happen where the guy's not viewing it as a woman, or the couple's not viewing it that way. The man's not setting it forth like, okay, you're entering my life, so I'm going to take care of you and make sure that all these things, even if a woman's entering a guy's space, or does he give her a toothbrush and like does he give her the big closet space? Does he, or is she like a second-hand, citizen? You know what I mean?
Right. Like he's still about him, but
right.
She's just there now.
Right.
Yeah, I think too that kind of goes into maybe a whole different topic of like, I just don't feel like men take pride in taking care of a woman.
No.
They see them as a child, or it's not, and which even makes me more afraid that men view taking care of their women as similar to a child.
Yeah.
Because that makes me feel like they don't really care about taking care of their child either. Like it's like a burden.
Yeah.
So be careful of those sort of men, ladies. If they are telling you that taking care of a woman is like taking care of, it's like another child or a dependent.
Yeah, if they say you're needy,
don't reproduce.
Yeah, if they say you're
with
needy,
them, don't date them.
Yeah,
clingy.
These are, that's
a whole nother episode because that really should be a whole nother
that's
episode.
How you want women to be.
Men are gonna be keyboard warriors in the comments for this one.
That's how you want it to be. That's how it should be. So.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely do all those things.
We should probably move to our segment.
Well, what is this segment?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've had a great trip.
I mean, I guess the only thing is that you felt like I didn't initiate.
Oh, yeah. The beginning of the trip.
Certain activities, but it wasn't feel like a huge thing. I think it was just something that I needed to be reminded of, because again, I guess we should have mentioned it in, was it the last episode that we talked about like intimacy?
Oh yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because when you told me about like what like makes you feel desired and like initiate. Like I thought initiate meant like me do things to you, which I do, but you view it as like me telling you what you want me to do or like you to do to me. And that has like been hard for me to fully process.
Yeah.
So it was really just kind of like a refresher thing of something we already talked about. It wasn't like a big, huge thing. And yeah, I just feel like kind of that sort of stuff and like the clingy stuff, it's women just get really confused about those sort of things because they're told so many different things.
Yeah.
And they still feel like they're pushed to be very independent by most men. And so it's, you know, I feel like a lot of that kind of confuses women when you're in a situation like this. Like, oh, you want me to be clingy? Oh, you want me to like tell you what I want you to do, you know, like in that way. So it's like, you know, something that I'm just trying to still process, which I feel like I've been better because this was like the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a learning curve, you know, like being with you helped me naturally fall into like a more feminine role, like just on its own because you're so masculine, but there's still parts that like I learned as a woman in today's society of like do things on your own and don't be clingy and don't like act like you need him, you know, like too much.
Yeah.
So it's just you have to like unlearn a lot of things. And it's weird because like in some ways you need to know that like when you're dating.
Right.
Because you don't want to give a man things that he doesn't deserve, he hasn't earned.
Right.
But at the same time, it's hard to unlearn them when, especially like when you're dating for so long. Like you and I met when I was like the end of my 20s. And so that's like a long time dating with these sort of things that were beneficial to dating. But then when you're in this dynamic and, you know, you like they're still ingrained and you got to like chip away at some of that. So,
yeah, no, that makes,
you know,
yeah, it's true. And and I think the biggest thing is it's like the feminine requires safety.
Right.
And because all of those things are things that require vulnerability, which requires safety because the feminine is fragile.
Right.
It's delicate.
Well, and I think as a woman, you're so used to like being screwed over. Like I'm not saying men don't get screwed over. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But like look at Love is Blind. Like how many men on that show
when they are fragile
have done where women are vulnerable and you know and guys are acting like they're pretending like they care.
Right.
And then they don't actually.
Right.
You know, or they're saying all the right things and a woman believes them and then they leave them high and dry at the altar. So it's like, you know, it's just scary for women, you know, and that's why like it's confusing.
Yeah.
Because you learn one thing and then when you're finally safe, you're almost like afraid still, or like you still have some of those things. Like I said, like I'm not afraid.
Right.
But there's still like
it's just
a part of me that's like, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to like, you know, like tell you what to do or whatever, but it's not that way. But it's like, that's what was programmed in my brain.
And not only that, but it's like, even when we make these episodes and the comments on the clips and stuff, it reinforces that to a lot of, because guys are like, I don't know, it's like, instead of, there's not very many guys like that are in their masculinity that are like, I want a woman that depends on me,
right,
for her,
and
life.
and I want to take care of her.
Right.
How many men have you seen come on somewhere and been like, I want to take care of a woman? How many?
Right. You don't see that. And then,
none.
In fact, they're saying the exact opposite things, which makes
and then women read that and they're like, okay, I don't see any men saying I want to take care of a woman, so I need to make sure I take care of myself. Because I'm reading all these comments of men being like, I don't need a kid.
And like I say all the time, guys are screwing themselves over because the things that they do want, the feminine things that they want, they come from that safety, which is the responsibility of taking care of a woman. That's when she gives you that feminine side. Right. And it's like, you know.
So I'm still messing up sometimes, but I'm trying.
Hardly.
I'm trying.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for our episode in paradise.
Aloha.
Aloha. Mahalo for joining us today.
Mahalo. Mahalo for joining us today.